Hi, I'm Jason Munkris with the San Juan County Textile Guild, um, and I'm here today with Robin Atkins. And I'm going to pin Robin's video so that you can see more of her. Um, okay, so Robin, first of all, what kinds of things have you been working on during the pandemic?
When the pandemic started, which for me was in January, because I had a friend in Wuhan, China, and I knew what was going on with the pandemic. But when that started, all the way through when we started our meetings in April, I I just was almost catatonic for some reason. I called it Corona paralysis or pandemic paralysis or something like that, because I just wasn't doing anything. I had a few quilts started from before and worked on them a little bit, but that's about it. Um, it just was a very bad time for me. Um, but when we started our meetings, almost immediately things changed. It just helped me so much to hear other people's stories, to see how other people were responding, to see that there were other people like me that had been pretty stuck. And somehow it just, a switch flipped and I went crazy with being productive. So I'm going to screen share and show a couple things that I'm working on. Let's see.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So what I decided to do was to take some of those moments during the pandemic where I was actually doing one thing. I forgot to mention this. I was writing poems pretty frequently and also journaling. So I just went through my poems and my journals and looked for things that I thought were either turning points or um, pretty important moments during the experience of the pandemic at the date when I wrote it. So I wrote down those moments, and there's 19 of them right now that are on a list. And then I started making little talisman or amulet type pieces for each of those moments. So this is the first one. The date was January 22nd. And Duma, this young lady here, is the adopted or quasi-adopted daughter of my best friend. And she's in America. She lives in America, but her parents are in Wuhan in China. And she went to China to visit them and got caught in the pandemic there and has still not been able to get back home here. So I took pictures of her and wove them together, cut them into strips and wove them together, which kind of shows the way she's been kind of caged over there in Wuhan. I'm not doing them in chronological order. I'm just doing them as they appeal to me to do. On March 14th, I baked bread, and it was a good moment, a good day for me. It made me happy to have fresh baked bread. I hadn't baked bread for over 20 years. So that was really cool. That's what this piece is about. March 30th, I'd run out of flour and I wanted to bake more bread and there wasn't any. So these represent either empty shelves, zeros on the shelves, or you could think of them as bags of flour. I don't know, but anyway, the back of the piece, by the way. And there's these ribbons on the back of the piece, and that card goes into the ribbons to tell the story of the piece. The next one, I got into making a lot of masks. I made well over 100 masks to donate to the Peace Health and for friends. So these fabrics are all different fabrics that I used to make masks. That was on April 3rd. April 9th, somebody sent a link to me to Playing for Change Song Around the World, which is an organization that makes videos of musicians playing a song together. So they're wearing earphones so they can hear each other. It's fantastic. And Redemption Song, just, oh my gosh, it just hit me. I listened to it over and over and over again, played it over and over and over again, sang, cried, danced, sang, cried, danced. It was just something opened up in me that day that was, I didn't even know was there. It was a lot of emotional experiences, and all around the world. That's what this little charm down here is, a world charm, and it's everywhere. So that's that one. Corona time I haven't done yet. Dancing Alone. I think that's kind of self-explanatory. I live alone, and when you stay at home and you live alone, it can get kind of lonely. So that was what that one is about. This one I call Addiction, because I tend to be a little bit addicted to things, and one of the things is chocolate. And for a while I was just eating way too much chocolate. So I'm not now, I'm done with that, but this was that time, April 26th, when it kind of reached a peak of too much chocolate. And this one is Corona Numbers, May 1st. By May, I'd kind of got thinking about myself so much and started thinking about others more. And so this piece reflects my obsession, maybe you could call it, with the numbers, and every day checking the numbers worldwide and nationwide and statewide and countywide.
Yeah, me too.
Those two parts of the heart can open up, and inside is a picture of a lot of dead people. And I really started grieving about all the deaths. Even though there wasn't anybody I knew personally that died, well, there is now, but there wasn't at the time. I just was grieving for those poor people and their families. This one is a pretty recent one. Jason, you might like this one because it's woven. This is my safe place. It's a magic carpet where everything is safe. And I wove it on an old-fashioned bead loom using silk yarn and silk thread that I had. A little bit of wool yarn too, but most of it's silk. And then I put it on a piece of silk velvet. And this is a touchstone for me when I feel scared or I'm really, really sad. I can touch this and fly away to somewhere nicer. And that's it for the ones that I have to show. I'm going to stop sharing and come back to you. That's what I've been working on. Very obsessed with it, really, just wanting to make them more and more. And so I'm about halfway done of the ones that I have on my list, and 3 more are in progress right now.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things I wanted to sort of talk about. What do you think you've learned during the pandemic or during the sort of woven together project?
I had an epiphany this morning, actually. I was working on one of those pieces, the Corona Diary pieces, and I had been struggling on how to get some watch hands for it. And I wanted the watch hands to be perfect, the right length, the right color.
Yeah.
Beautiful old watch hands. And I was on eBay and I was on Etsy and I was calling friends and I was posting on Facebook and blah, 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 and obsessing about getting the perfect watch hands. And I woke up this morning thinking, wait a minute, it does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect. None of these have to be perfect. They do not have to be perfect. So that's what I've learned. They don't have to be perfect.
Oh, that sounds like a lesson I could learn.
It's a lesson I think, I'll probably have to relearn it many times, but right now so I got up this morning, and even before I got dressed, I came out in my studio and drew the hands on my piece, drew them on there with a gel pen. Done.
Would you say that's one of the major changes in you since we started this project?
No, there's even a more basic, equally important change. You know, my passion has for 35 years was beads.
Yeah.
And with my bead work, I always worked improvisationally. I always worked emotionally. So I would just have a thought in my mind like, oh my God, I love my mom. And I would make a piece with that thought in my mind. And it just kind of evolved intuitively without a lot of pre-planning, without a lot of anything. But with fiber arts, I've never been that way. It's been more driven by the material and the technique. So I'm knitting and I'm going to knit a sweater and I'm going to use this technique and it's going to be this color because blah, 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 you know, and it's so driven by that. And with these Corona diaries for the first time, it's driven by my heart and not by the materials or the techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, and I like it. I like it better. I can connect with my pieces and my work better and feel more excited about doing it and making it and making it all the way through. Like if I knit a sweater or I crochet an afghan or I weave something before, it was always kind of a chore. Once I had it all planned out and the materials and the technique all lined up and started it, then it was kind of a chore to finish it. Whereas now it's fun all the way through because it's coming out of my heart, not just the materials.
Yeah, that's an interesting transformation. It really is.
It is a huge transformation. If it carries beyond the pandemic and beyond Woven Together, I'll be very, very, very happy.
And do you think that's because of the Woven Together project or just being shut in or both or neither?
Both. I think both. I think both. I think it is because of the pandemic, I'm more emotional than I usually am. My emotions are closer to the surface than they usually are. And then the meetings just kind of let it come out.
Yeah.
And because of the meetings, Carol Strum talked about doing amulets, and so the meetings had a big part of it, but so does the being in the pandemic.
Yeah, you know, something struck me about the Woven Together project and the meetings that we have online and how they're not really the same as other meetings we have, I think. And even, you know, we have guild retreats, we have regular meetings. Yeah, so why do you think that might be?
I think it might be two reasons. Well, maybe a lot more than two, but I could think of two off the top of my head. One being that when you're in a Zoom meeting, you're seeing just a person's face and you can concentrate on that, you know. So there's a real connection with Zoom for some reason for me, because I'm not distracted by the person next to me knitting and the person next to her whispering to the person next to her, you know, like in a meeting, which all those things are distracting. But with the Zoom, you're just looking at that person and listening to that person. There's nothing else going on. And it has enabled me to focus better.
So kind of more conversation versus a performer and audience kind of a thing.
Exactly. That's definitely part of it. And the other part of it is, I think, just because what I said before is that most of us, maybe, our emotions are a little closer to the surface. And when that is true and you're talking with somebody, when it's true of both people and you're talking to somebody, you feel, or I feel, a deeper connection with them. And so each person that has been involved with these Zoom meetings, I've developed very quickly a much deeper connection with them than I've had previously. And it's carried over. So when we had our business meeting the other day, our board meeting, connection was there.
Yeah, you know, I felt that too. Actually. Yeah.
I love it. I think it's really cool. Even Val, I worked with Val on the NU, but mostly Val on the Tempestry project very closely. And we had a lot of kind of what I would call intimate conversations. But the day in the Zoom meeting when she said, "I'm just pissed," or just like, okay, now I really know Val, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Jason. It was a pleasure to be able to show my work and to talk to you about this.